So what is cardiac drift? Why does it happen? And can we use the information about it to somehow fine-tune or even improve our training? Don't go anywhere, we're going to discuss that. So let's start by trying to understand what is cardiac drift. Going to Runners Connect, you can see it is nice chart. So the cardiac drift is that for a given effort level or pace for a runner, so that's the blue line, your heart rate, so that's the red line, slowly but surely increase over time. Or said in another way, cardiac drift is for a given heart rate, your pace will slowly decrease. So I give you an example of one of my run. So 1 hour run at more or less the same pace. And you can see that my heart rate increase slowly but surely over time. So what is causing the cardiac drift? So we are not sure, by we I mean scientists, but probably there are two main explanations. So one is dehydration and the other is the fact that you need to cool yourself, you need to reduce the body core temperature. So those two combined effects would reduce the volume of blood that is pumped per stroke, and because you still need to sustain the same pace, you need the same cardiac output, in other words the same amount of blood to be dispatched to your muscle per minute. So if there is less volume per stroke, then automatically that means the heart rate needs to increase, so that overall it's equivalent in terms of cardiac output. So and was mentioning the drift also increase the maximum heart rate. So meaning if you were to test for your maximum heart rate in the first 5 minutes of a workout, you will get a lower result than if you try that again, let's say 1 hour later. As you can see here, in one study they show that it was increase of 5 beats per minute in the maximum after 45 minutes. Why is cardiac drift important? So I will refer you to Joe Friel, which is probably the main coach behind Training Peaks. So he introduced a notion of decoupling, whereby you analyze the first half of your workout and then the second half, and if the cardiac drift is really higher in the second half, then that means you may not have been below aerobic threshold. So let's look at some number. If you can have power numbers, it's even better than pace, so that's convenient for runners or for cyclists or runner who have the stride pod. So in his example, the first half of the workout, cyclists can average 180 watts using only 135 beats per minute in terms of heart rate. So the ratio is that. Then the second half, the power stay more or less constant, 178, but 4 more beats per minute were needed. So the ratio is lower, and the difference is 3.8%. So because it's less than 5%, decoupling didn't occur, and that means that the workout was deemed aerobic. And for him it's pretty important, because if you want to increase your volume, anyway, not train, specifically your lactate threshold or your VO2 max or whatever, if you want to be in the 80-20 training approach, then you need to make sure that decoupling doesn't occur. In other words, you need to make sure that the cardiac drift is kept in check. So for example here that would look like so, there is a small increase but not too much, but here the increase is too high, above 5%. So let me show you an example of decoupling. So that was my half marathon PB. As you can see, I was trying to be constant at the beginning, 5 minutes per kilometer, but you see my heart rate increase by quite a lot. So you can see it here, 5 minutes, more or less. But quickly the average crept up to 170s, 175, even 180. So clearly there was some decoupling because the cardiac drift was far higher than 5%, which makes sense because half marathon is probably run between VT1 and lactate threshold. So it would be nice if this index was computed for us. If you're a Garmin user, there are some options for you. So you can go to Connect IQ and look for cardiac drift, and you will see a few options. Actually, there are two. So this one, which is really doing what Joe Friel is advocating, which is the first half versus the second half of the workout. I didn't test it, so I cannot really comment. I used this one, running index. So this one is more live in the sense that they compute at a given time the change in the ratio. So the ratio is not heart rate versus power, but heart rate versus pace, or more specifically pace adjusted per grade. So if you're running uphill, that should take that into account. Also, they try to compensate for change in running speed, so gradient, as I said, and even wind. But you need to do something in the settings for that to happen. I will show you that later. So anyway, they're computing that, so it looks all and well. The only difference as well is that they're not using first half and second half, but they're comparing the change in ratio compared to a benchmark that is computing between the first 5 and 10 minutes of your workout. So I downloaded this, and as you can see here, it's computed indeed, and you can see that the drift was higher than 5% in my half marathon. So how do you change the settings? So they explain here. So I will put the link in the description. So basically myself, I did it via the phone, so I cannot show you right now. Anyways, well, once you've got this app and you've got the stats, why does it matter? How to use that? Well, I've got a few challenges to all this approach. So first of all, if really dehydration can impact your drift, my question is, when Joe said this cutoff of 5%, does it include the athlete having access to enough fluid, enough drinks, or not? Another question is, you know, the temperature will impact the cardiac drift as well. So for example, if the temperature is 22 degrees Celsius or 35 degrees, then the drift is not happening at the same pace at the same time. So where does it fit into this 5%? We don't know. Maybe we can assume that overall we have access to drinks and it's in normal conditions, and then we need to take that into account if we run in summer, for example. Anyway, an interesting take on all of that I found here, I'll put the link in the descriptions as well, is maybe what we should do, at least sometimes, is split our workout, even if they are aerobic ones. So we split them such that the cardiac drift doesn't happen, or anyway is kept in check. So that means we could basically run harder, still like in the aerobic zone, but like at the upper end. So for example, you do 10-minute segments and then you rest. So he's advocating that at least you will keep the maximum stroke, and in this article they are saying that if you're training once your stroke volume is maximal, then it somehow makes you fitter quicker. So that's an interesting idea. I don't see much research really proving it. There are some links, but anyway, it's as usual, in running science, there is nothing very definitive, simply because even if you've got some research, most of the time you will have sample size that's quite small, like 20 athletes, and also it's over not enough long period of time. Like usually it's at the best you can have 8 weeks, but that's not really representative of a real training plan that could last months or even years. Anyway, some food for thought, so I hope you found that helpful. Thanks Darren for asking this question about cardiac drift, and see you next time.